Hello and welcome to the live Printing Impressions webinar, Solo Printing Invests in Rotary Die-Cutting Capabilities to Grow Markets, Eliminate Outsourcing, sponsored by MBO America. I'm Mark Michelson, Editor-in-Chief of Printing Impressions and the host of today's event. I'm being joined today by Robert Hernandez, VP of Sales at Solo Printing, and Lance Martin, VP of Marketing at MBO America and Comori America. They will discuss the Miami, Florida-based commercial printers' expansion and investment into Bograma BSR rotary die-cutting equipment provided by MBO America. The finishing process is allowing Solo Printing to increase its revenues in the retail, direct mail, converting, and packaging channels. Robert will compare the original cost of production before the die-cutting equipment investment with Solo's production costs after the investment, exploring their ROI. He will also outline resulting improvements in turnaround times, efficiency, and quality control. During today's webinar, you'll learn about the capabilities of the Bograma BSR die-cutting system with attached folder gluer and buckle folder, how die-cutting capabilities fit into a commercial printer solution portfolio, and how Solo Printing reduced steps in production costs for two of its accounts. We'll have time at the end of today's presentation for a live Q&A, so please don't hesitate to submit your questions for today's speakers. But before we get started, let me take a second to point out the resources widget at the bottom of your console. It looks like an open book. If you missed the Tech Tips video we played leading up to the webinar, you can always click this widget to access our Tech Tips PDF as well as other webinar resources. All right, let's get going. Lance Martin will lead off with a brief overview of MBO. Lance, take it away.
Hey, thanks, Mark. I appreciate it. First of all, I'd like to just take a moment and thank everybody for joining us. I think we've got a really good program today. We got a real good chance to learn a couple new things. I'm going to try to talk just a little bit about the new corporate structure of MBO America and Comori America after the purchase. So you guys will have a chance to learn a little about that. And then as Robert goes through the presentation, we're going to have a chance to actually pick apart a product that they were producing both in a way a few years ago and then now new with the new finishing line. And we have photos, videos, and some details about it. So I think it'll be a great study of an ROI and the cost benefit of it. To start this off, I'd like to just talk just a second about who is MBO America and the new structure. I would imagine there's a few people that have got a couple of questions about that, so I thought I would just take a moment to go over the company. MBO was purchased last year by Comori, and now we're part of the Comori Group. The Comori Group is out of Tokyo. They've been around since 1923. And Comori is a leading printing press manufacturer for many different types of presses, including sheet-fed, web offset, digital, and then packaging presses, and also currency presses. And they're a great fit for MBO to roll up to, because MBO has, with Comori working in the commercial print industry and the packaging industry, and MBO having products in the commercial print and some of the packing industry, it's a great overlap to provide a complete solution from the front end all the way through to finishing. So the way it's structured for the U.S. group is kind of how you see on the map here. You have the parent corporation in Japan with the parent German corporation for MBO out of Oppenweiler, which is kind of a centralized, it's near Stuttgart in Germany. Then we have our H&H division up in Bielefeld, which is in northern Germany. The MBO Portugal manufacturing plant has been around since 1972, and it's supported right out of the coast in Portugal and easily can deliver machinery worldwide. And it just so happens the MBO America location is also on the coast in America. We're out of New Jersey, right near Philadelphia, and then the Comori America division is in Chicago, and it's a great partnership. We're having a good chance to work together now with the Comori America people, closer than we ever have, and providing that total solution. The second part of this is the partnership I wanted to bring out. And, you know, we're working with a lot of partners to provide the total solution. So some of the things we need are not in our core competency. So things like the gluers and camera processing system for gluers and water score units and things like that are all part of the HHS systems. Air trim, a great partner to work with scrap removal. And then, of course, our biggest partner, which you're going to have a chance to see today, is Bograma. And Bograma provides, you know, world-class rotary and flatbed style die cutting solutions for our commercial print industry. So that's a little overview of the new structure that we're working within, and we're really proud to be part of the Komori group. You know, it might be strange for some of you to be joining a webinar on die cutting where MBO is hosting it. In the past days, MBO is certainly associated with folding, and most people do remember us for folding. But now we want to rebrand ourselves a bit and get people to thinking about MBO as an end-to-end solution for roll-fed and sheet-fed print. And it doesn't matter whether it's roll-fed digital, roll-fed offset, whether sheet-fed can be digital or offset or any other style. It doesn't really make much difference. We want to get the message across that even though our core competency was built on buckle and knife folding, it's not the only capability. And MBO is certainly now a world-class provider of integrated sheet-fed and roll-fed finishing solutions. And it's not just for commercial print industry, it's commercial and it's affiliated industries, because a lot of our customers have tried to get on into some packaging things, and then of course all the direct mail and the inkjet solutions are filtering into that commercial print industry now also. We try to provide value through the modularity and integration of those modules, those first two items. The modularity comes from our multiple business units being able to provide modules that are connected to each other. So that's how we can get a roll-fed solution of a folder, or a sheet-fed die cutter integrating to a folder gluer, which you're going to see today. Those solutions are all scalable and they're flexible. We think that's really important for the commercial market, which is changing at a moment's notice. They can invest in something and grow with it, or move it and change it and rearrange it to have it produce other products, and we're going to have a really good example of that today. It's durable. We've come from the commercial market. People know us as a 24/7 machinery manufacturer, and it's high performance. And because we've expanded that capability and used those partnerships outside of the MBO core, we can do a lot more things. The one thing we want to talk about explicitly is how people are consolidating functions. And many times we talk about automation, but automation of a process can also mean, as a fringe benefit, of consolidation of a process. So what used to be 4 or 5 processes or 3 can now be 1. And we need to do that with the market of today. You know, we can't have processes that take a week to get it through the building. We have to have processes to get it through in a day or in hours. And that comes to that one touch to print and one touch to finish model. And we try our best to provide solutions that adhere to that. So the MBO America portfolio, today we're going to have a chance to talk about the one with the star. That's the die cutting systems from Roller Sheet. You're going to see the BSR 550 servo from Bograma, and it's going to feed sheets, and it's going to go into some of our specialty products from H&H, and some buckle folding lines are available, although not shown. We're going to describe them today. And this is the type of solution you can see from MBO America when you talk to our people. They will consult with, based on this type of a model. The BSR you're going to see today is the 550 servo, and that's the center channel image and the center column of specifications. It's a B2 sheet size rotary die cutter, and can go up to 12,000 cycles per hour and has a wide range of paper capabilities in it, and could go up to a B2 sheet size. Actually, the sheet size could get all the way up to 21 by 29.5, but with the B2 sheet size commonly being 20 by 29. For those of you that have processes that are similar but may need a little bit different size or speed or capability, there are other models shown here on the slide. For the B2 plus size, which is coming out in the inkjet market, we have the 620, and that can go up to a 23 by 29. And then we have the basic version, where people that don't need all the capabilities of all the attachments and things, they are basically doing a die cutting operation, delivering die cut pieces to a shingle table. Great solution, fast, easy to make ready, just doesn't have quite all that expanded capability when the need is not there. So that's the family we're going to be stressing today in our workup. The other thing we're going to talk about specifically today at Solo is where the ROI is coming from. So we see a lot of the ROIs coming into 4 channels. We'll kind of classifying them into 4 channels. I'm sure there's more, and you could talk about it in different fashions, but for now we'll give you an idea of the different buckets. So the guillotine cutter is usually a bucket that people can eliminate by using a rotary die cutter. The die cutter can cut out square cornered products easily, and it can also take out all the bleeds and trims. So where you normally might take a sheet, take it to the cutter, and have 10, 15, 20 cuts going into taking out a lot of bleeds for a multiple up product, die cutter can take the sheet and run it through there, taking out all those cuts in one pass. The flatbed die cutter is definitely a thing to look at. It's typically a very long make ready. It has a internal scrap. Stripping is difficult. It usually has nicks, and the rotary die cutter can take away all that very easily. And then, of course, multiple steps you're going to see today, which I think is the most interesting thing. The die cutter can be linked up to other products within our portfolio and can do, a multitude of things all in one pass. And that includes, tip-ons and glues and scoring and perfing and taking out the matrix and so on. And then, of course, farming out work. Typically, we see this in some of the mid-size and smaller projects where people have die cutting needs, but they don't feel they have the full need for a full-blown, full-size flatbed die cutting upgrade. You could take a lot of work in-house, and the B2 sheet size does fit well with that, and you can pull that in-house and gain back control of the margin, the schedule, and the quality. So that's a little overview of what we're going to talk about as far as the process and the systems today. I think I'm going to pass it on to Robert now, where he'll have a little chance to tell you about Solo Printing and their venture through additions in the machinery.
Thanks, Lance. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today and taking the time to join in. So my name is Robert Hernandez. I am a VP of Sales here at Solo Printing. Solo is a family-owned commercial printing company located in Miami, Florida. We are on 36 years of being in the printing industry. Started off by 2 brothers, who you see in the picture, as a small little 2-man operation, and now we are 180,000 square feet and roughly 150 employees. So we've grown quite a bit over our 36-year history. So we call ourselves a general commercial printer. So we offer quite a bit of different services for our commercial customers. Some of them are very obvious, some a little bit not so much. A pre-press is an obvious one. We have web presses, sheet fed presses, and digital. So we do offer all types of services across all 3 of those platforms, and I'll get into those a little bit in the next couple slides. Additionally, obviously, we have a full-service bindery, which we do, again, the general stuff, your folding, your stitching, your perfect binding, and then a couple years back, we added in some die cutting services as well to to fill some of the needs we have with our customers. On top of that, we offer full service mailing services. Going along with that is some data security measures we put in place, both web-based and physical-based. And then as well, we're doing warehousing and fulfillment. So we really try to encompass as much as we can in our shop to make it kind of a one-stop shop for our customers. So we'll get into a little bit of the capabilities, and I won't bore you too much with some of the details, but we are a full Komori shop. As you can see, we've been partnered with Komori for 20 plus years probably now. So we have 2 full web presses, 38S presses from Komori. One was installed in 2008, the other one in 2015. And then in late 2019, we upgraded our 2 older Komori sheet-fed presses with 2 new 40-inch Komoris, one being a 10-color plus coater perfector, and the other one a 6-color straight press. So we have a lot of firepower when it comes to our printing side, both on the sheet fed and the web side. And then on the digital side, we have a Xerox Color Press 1000i, which we use basically to fill that little bit of gap between the sheet fed and digital, the short run market for some of our customers, as well as some VDP work that's required by them. Then moving into the bindery side, same as Komori, which we've been partners with for a very long time. We have been partners with MBO for, again, probably 20 plus years. So we're pretty loyal to the brands that are good to us. So in here, as I mentioned, we have all your basic functions needed for a general commercial shop. One of the things we've always tried to do is kind of bring as much in-house as possible, which is what we did with the die cutter. So here we have general bindery services, mailing services, and again, fulfillment services. So some of the value prop and things that we really push to our customers is, we really try to, again, be a one-stop shop. Nowadays, it's kind of difficult to say, hey, we're outsourcing a process. Some processes more than others, but some you really can't outsource any longer with the different customers out there. So we're always continuously reinvesting in our company. That's one of the models that we've had for 35 plus years is, every year we pick a department or some kind of machinery that maybe needs a little bit of updating, and we try to update to a newer technology or newer base, which gives us faster make-readies, faster turnaround times, which is kind of what's needed in the market today. We are a diversely owned company as well, and we are certified by the NMSDC. And then, again, going back to the press room and post press, we just try to automate as much as we can, even though commercial printing is somewhat difficult to automate. We try to automate and remove as many touches as possible throughout the processes. We are also certified by the 3 major certification corporations in the world, FSC, SFI, and PFC. So we try to do our part with buying responsibly sourced paper on that side. Some of the tech and infrastructure. We are a G7 Master Certified Printer. We are also ISO 27001 certified, which was kind of a big deal for us about 2 years ago that we achieved that. It was kind of becoming a requirement by some of our customers. We are additionally also HIPAA compliant. We are a Fuji shop. We use XMF remote for pre-press and online upload of files. And we do have an internal MIS software, which customers don't see it, but it helps us organize from start to finish, end to end, the whole production process. It helps us automate our scheduling process, and which helps us obviously turn around times and cost reduction through the process. That's about all of it for us. So again, we're located in Miami, Florida. And those are our social platforms. If you could follow us, we'd greatly appreciate it. Take it away, Lance. Hey, Lance, you're on mute. I want to start that over.
I'm sorry. Boy, I apologize, everybody. I didn't realize that. So we have a chance to look at an Iron Cross card holder today. This is an offset produce product. I got to stop smiling over that. I've never done that before. Mark, you're going to laugh at me on that one. I've done a lot of these and never done that. The card holder is unique in that it has a lot of internal scrap cuts that on a flatbed cutter causes a lot of issues. You have to get a lot of product out of the middle of these things. It's an offset sheet, and then on top of that, since it's a point of purchase type of an item, it's a delivered item, the clean cut edge is really important. So from a flatbed cutting standpoint, that's a challenge with with nicks that are usually required on a flatbed. And then additionally, it also had to go through a step of adding a tape to the middle so that a card could be inserted inside the folded flaps. And I think what we have today, we're going to show, I think Robert can walk through the process really well, but we're going to go through the state of producing, say, a 50,000 or 25,000 sheet run and let it go through the process.
Yeah, so we picked this product as this is one of the main products we looked into the Bograma for. So it's a 100,000 piece product, 25,000 sheets off the press. So this is our original process, which, as you can see, has quite a bit of steps to it. So we had the offset printing side, then we were outsourcing that whole section there in red, which was, we transported it to a local vendor, which did the finishing for us. So it was a process of flatbed die cutting, stripping, then feed and glue, then double-sided tape, then batch, and then transport back to us. So that whole process, you added a lot of days to the turnaround time on the product. So we roughly did some math there, and it's about 108 working hours, which we calculated. Again, that doesn't account for the outside vendor schedule, other challenges they may have, or us working around them and not working around us. So that's kind of what we saw and what we aim to try to improve. On this slide here now, I'll show this is the new process. This is our process currently with the Bograma in place. So as you can see right off the bat, we have probably half or maybe more of the amount of blue squares. So here again, we're doing the same print process. That did not change. We have one additional process, which is to cut the sheet in half at the guillotine. And then we hit the Bograma BSR line. And we're basically knocking out in one step all these processes: the die cut, the strip, the glue, the application of the tape, and the batching. So that was huge for us. And again, it's the ROI for us was the ability to turn the work faster, much faster, to help our customer with their needs. Like everything else today, it's due yesterday. So it allowed us for that. It allowed us to really QC the job through the process. We weren't necessarily having issues with our vendor. We have some good vendors, but again, it's something internal that we could keep an eye on, and we could control the quality, the scheduling. So we did kind of the math there as well, and we could knock this job out, same job in about 10 hours. So I mean, we're talking pretty substantial savings of time, man hours, touching, which it opens less touching, doesn't allow for other errors to happen, which unfortunately in printing, it's prone to happen with all the different processes we have going on at the same time.
I think before we go away from that process, I think one of the things I like to point out to people that are looking at die cutters like this, it's kind of finding its place in the market and where a D2 die cutter like this size fits. It doesn't compete with a full size flatbed that's pounding out 100 million tissue boxes in a packaging environment, right? That's not a good fit for something like this that's a small size. Where it really does fit well is on multiple up products that are on the smaller side that have, I guess, what we call medium type runs. And what I wanted to point out on this slide is that we're still going to a guillotine cutter to take that full size offset press sheet and hit it once with the guillotine. And we cut it into an A and a B sheet. And even with that in there, the steps are incredibly reduced. And we at MBO realized this when we, because we're very exposed to that sheet fed offset side. And we realized that's a perfectly good match for the, for the machine. It doesn't have to fit only into a B2 or a 1319 or any of those types of small sheet types of environments. It can fit in the other environments in the run length with that one cut. So before we go to, I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, and I'll tag on to that. I mean, we do still outsource quite a bit of die cutting. Again, we worked with MBO to find a solution for one of the products, which wasn't even this product at that time, for one of our customers, and then it kind of evolved into some other things. But I mean, we do still outsource quite a bit, so it's not like this is just taking out everything else we do. So it does have its place, basically what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, right.
So I'll kind of go over a quick summary of what we just talked about. So we had about a 98-hour of labor time reduction with the new process. No transport off-site, which even though the company we use is local, you do lose a day back and forth just with staging and getting into the schedule. We reduced about four people through the process. And then again, the new process is one guillotine operator for the single cut, one BSR operator for the make, ready, and the run, and then one helper at the end of the line. And the last thing, which is kind of what we looked at, is we internalized that profit. So instead of paying somebody else's shop, we're just keeping it internal, and it's something that we do run consistently. So it's helped us with that aspect.
Great. We did have the opportunity to, we've got a couple of photos of the machine. It's a little big to fit on a nice photo. So what I did is I've got a photo of the die cutter with the connection to the folder gluer on the right side of the machine. But I thought I would go through a layout with a little process description. For those of you that are into the engineering side of this a little bit, this is what's really going on. We take the 2-up sheet, right? It's printed 28 by 35. I'm sorry, 25 by 38 and split in half. Then they take the 2-up sheets, run them through the die cutter. The die cutter has an internal matrix stripping section. So that outer perimeter matrix is stripped away automatically. The holes are removed from all those internal cuts. That's made capable because we don't need on a rotary process to have the nicks that are normally associated with die cutting. The folder gluer is the next piece, and it runs right from the die cutter into the folder gluer. We internally call that a vacuum transport table because it's not necessarily just a folder gluer. That table is a vacuum style transport that can have multiple processes on it. In this case, Solo Printing has a tape head applicator, and then there's some plows and a gluer downstream of it to finish the product. So the holes are removed, the tape is applied, folds the flap over, and it's delivered. So that's kind of a layout process review for those of you that enjoy the engineering side of this. And then the flexibility thing that we talked about earlier, it's a big deal for the line. So what we took here was a chance to show you some layouts of the same machinery, just configured in a different way. The die cutter, as you can see, is always on the right side in the line, and it's used as the feeding system and the cutting system that gets the shapes out of the back end. Over on the right top, you see where they just use it as a die cutter, and you can cut out cards and tags and labels and things like that, and just deliver them out, stack them up, put them in a box, and you're done. The system that you see second below on the right side is the system that produced the Iron Cross, but you can also use it for straight inline folding carton work and direct mail work that comes out in that direction. You don't have to use the tape dispenser. You could have a second plow in that situation. And then you see a greeting card type line in the lower right where you cut it. It scores automatically in the die. It's integral to the die cutting, and then goes onto a buckle folder and it folds. So, and then you can see where you can rearrange the folder gluer in combination up on the left side drawings with a buckle folder in the process, and that gives you a large number of ideas on how you can finish something. So with those 5 different components, you have a system that is really versatile, and as long as it matches up to the run length and the economy of the job you're looking at, that easily can be make ready to pull off a medium or long run and be a really great economical solution. So we have the last thing I think we have to show. When I click on the next slide, it's going to show a video of the line running. I will warn those of you with headphones on, when we made the video, we did not realize in time to cut out the audio portion of it. You will hear some noise of the system running in the background, and I would suggest you turn down your volume during the video clip. We're only going to play about a minute of the clip. That'll show you the whole process where it goes through from the sheet to the cut to the tape application, the fold, and then onto the delivery table. And then we'll stop the video there. So here we go with a video. So I think we can stop it there. That's kind of a review of the entire line going from the right to the left with showing sheet feeding and all the way through to the delivery. I think that's it for the moment. I think, Mark, if you want to, unless you have other comments, Robert, I think, Mark, you may want to, maybe we'll move to the question and answer session.
I think I'm good.
Okay. All right. Well, great. Yeah, we've got some questions that have come in, and I encourage everyone who's viewing this to please don't hesitate to submit any questions you have. A few have come in about paper stocks in terms of the types of stocks that we're able to run on the system, maybe the minimum weight, the maximum thickness. I don't know who wants to take that one. Lance, do you want to talk about maybe the maximum?
I can give you,
Robert, what you're doing?
Yeah, I can give you some max and mins. It'll run, I mean, it really is versatile. It goes from very light stocks all the way up to 18-point board. And that's with a double-sided die. It'll actually run cut and score on 18-point board. So folding carton stocks with male and female dies is perfectly okay. On the light side, I mean, what's really dependent is the stripping. The die cutter will likely cut it, but stripping it will be the challenge. We usually see really good performance all the way down into the 50-pound weights. 60-pound weights. Text is perfectly okay. It starts getting a little iffy when you get light like that. And if we certainly would want to test it to see what kind of performance you get out of it. And if you go lighter, it'll definitely have to be tested. The die cutter will probably cut it all the way down into the 30-pound range, but the likely of the ability to strip it that way would be a serious challenge.
Yeah, so it does as per spec. It goes from some light stocks, some tech stocks up to 18-point. Our experience, we run mostly cover stock on there, anything from 100-pound to a 14-point. So that's where it runs good. We have run some tech stock, but with no finishing line attached, just straight die cut. So it'd just be a die cut card or whatever it may be on tech stock. So that's really the challenge. The die cutter will cut it, but then it depends what you're doing after that. If you're folding, gluing, and things like that, you need a little more weight to it than just tech stock.
Yeah, that's a really good comment. A standalone die cutter is one thing, but when you start putting on things like what Solo's doing with folders, gluers, buckle folders, attachments, and such, the stock is a pretty important factor in how the performance goes.
All right. What about run lengths? What do you target for the die cutter system? Robert, maybe you can talk about your run length ranges.
So for us particularly, they're typically medium to longer sized runs. But that said, that's just our take on it. It really depends on the amount of make ready involved. So I mean, if it's a straight die cut piece, it could be a pretty short run. If it's something with a little more involved on the finishing side, folding, gluing, or any type of application, then we take that into account and decide whether we keep it internal or send it out. A lot of the runs we do are kind of repeat runs. Different artwork, but just repeat stuff. So we're able to kind of speed up the make ready time on those. But typically, again, for us, it's medium to long runs.
Anything to add to that, Lance?
Yeah, I think that's generally the idea. I will add that we have a lot of experience running the card type application where it's 2 up, 4 up, 6 up, 8 up cards on a product, and those tend to get into the short runs. They're easy to hang the dies. They typically don't have a lot of finishing after the die cut process. They're running the die cutter more as a standalone module, maybe with one extra finishing piece after it. And now those will get down into what I would call a shorter run, where they may only run a few hundred sheets in it. And it does make sense because they tend to be repeat jobs. But yeah, we definitely don't see it competing in like the laser die cut market where it's one product. Certainly doesn't compete there. But it is a very fast changeover machine. I think that might be one of the harder things to understand about the rotary process is it doesn't require the make ready that a flatbed type would. You can hang a die, adjust it for the stripping, and you can be running in, a repeat job. We've seen it run in 10 or 15 minutes, and typically you're 20 minutes running again. So that's not unusual. So you can call that a pretty short run, and the machine will run fairly quick. So it can get longer runs too.
Lance, you mentioned cards. Maybe this question might be best directed toward you. Kevin wanted to know, how about die cutting round corner laminated cards? Can this unit shingle and keep in sequence order?
The general answer is yes. A laminated card, it depends on the laminate and what side it's laminated, if it's single or double and such. We typically like to run some tests on those to see how they cut. And yes, it will keep them all in order. It keeps them order in a stream. And then if you're doing things like playing cards or gaming cards, we actually have an attachment that goes on the end of the die cutter that is a stacking device that will make stacks of rows, or in the example of the playing card, like a deck of 52 cards, it'll actually make the deck. So those are all attachments for specialty applications that can go on to people that might provide, gaming cards in the, in the trading baseball card industry and things like that, or in the playing card industry for poker and baccarat and those types of things. That's all there too.
Okay. We've got some questions coming in related to the dies. Some people are asking about the life of the dies, how long they last, and can you use it more than once? Who wants to take that one first?
I could take that. So, the dies, if I'm not mistaken, there's different levels of dies. Obviously, the cheaper or more expensive. So we typically use the mid-range one, which has some type of coating on it, and don't hold me to that, which helps longevity. So those dies they're rated for 300,000 to 400,000, I believe. But again, it all depends on the substrate. The paper has everything to do with it. If it's a thicker sheet, if it's a clean sheet or not, it'll obviously wear down the blades. As far as reusing them, we reuse them all the time. We reuse them till they go dull. We have products, again, that we're repeating over and over every month, every other month. So we hang the dies, and it's just a matter of putting them back on. It's not like a plate on a press. It's magnetized, so it goes right on the die, and it has pinholes which allow you to line it up. So yeah, we do reuse them, and they last a fairly long time.
Yeah, that's a good rule of thumb. We work a lot with one of our partners, Coker and Beck. They're out of Kansas City, Missouri, and they do. Robert's right. They have different levels. The higher levels are hardened, laser hardened on the tips and things for longer runs and such. They have the ability to change the angles of the cuts and all types of different things for the blades. And we use a rule of thumb generally from them that's 300,000 to 400,000 impressions for. But if you get nice virgin paper that's easy to cut and it bursts under the knife real well, it'll go a lot longer. And then maybe like that one the person asked about the cards that are laminated, where you have to maybe up the pressure a little bit on the dies to make sure they cut through the film, you might get less. So it does depend a lot on the product, but that's a general rule of thumb.
We also received a couple questions around like who makes the dies and like roughly what do they cost? I'm sure it can vary, but maybe just to give people a range.
Well, we work with our favorite vendor right now is Coker and Beck. From a partner standpoint, they really produce a high quality die. The dies are priced like you might think by lineal, well, roughly. The more complicated they get, the less this is true. But most of the time, they're priced by lineal inch of blade, right? So if you do a presentation folder that basically has an outer perimeter and a score cut down or a score down the middle or on the sides, it's a lot less costly than one that has like that playing card die where it's 52 cards up and tons and tons of blade. I'm not exactly sure of a final cost. Robert might have some numbers, I don't know, but they also can depend on whether they're single-sided or double-sided. So the BSR is very unique in that it has both cylinders in all the time. So if you're running, like the Iron Cross. Well, no, let's say you're running playing cards. Playing cards are generally a cut through, and that's a single-sided die, and you can put on a dummy plate on one side and run single-sided die on the other, and it keeps the cost down. But if you go to a full-blown folding carton that's multiple up with two, with score from the bottom up and down, you can get a much more complicated die that needs two-sided plates, and you can run that too.
Yeah, so we use the same company as well, and I mean the dies. It's hard to. I mean, I don't want to put a hard price on it, but it could go from a few hundred up to close to 1,000, depending on how intricate it is. We have some simple ones which are relatively inexpensive, and then we've had some pretty intricate ones with a lot of cuts and and multiple up that can get pretty expensive. So
there's one feature of the dies, Mark, that you can actually make your own scoring dies and such using lithoperf and ceto matrix and such. They make a little a plate that goes on the die cutter, and it's kind of got a grid on it, and you can place that stuff on it to put on a score, or something simple like a perf like that. If you're doing a quick project where you need to score in perf before a fold, you could actually pull that off there.
Okay. This one came in. Can the machine read a barcode between orders to know how many sheets need to be cut for each order with orders that have variable page counts?
Yeah, it can. We call that a feeder inhibit. There's a mark. It has marks to not only do that, but it has marks to register itself, print to cut register control. And you can read a mark and it will inhibit the feeder. That's an optional feature we can put on it if you need it.
Okay.
To turn off and make a gap, so to speak.
Will this machine kiss cut adhesive stocks?
Yes. The dies are precision dies, and they are made with two cylinders that have bearers on them, and they're undercut exactly. And the die manufacturer will make the die, and if you kiss cut against, say, a silicone release liner, you can cut through the outer label and stop at the release liner, and they work just great. And as a matter of fact, you don't have to shim like a lot of people are used to on some flatbed type situations. It's a rotary situation, and that gap is precisely controlled with the bearers. So you really don't shim it. You don't have to make a test and then shim the cylinders and so on. It's pretty much the same make ready as you would with a through cut. Works great.
Okay, Robert, this one might be best. It's a little bit of a long one, but please describe the nature of the automation between the press, the finishing configuration, and the MIS using XMF remote between the components of your operation. For example, just the job instructions between the major systems.
Can you repeat that again? I lost you.
Yeah, that's a big one.
The person wants to know, describe the nature of the automation between the press, the finishing configuration, and your MIS system using XMF remote between the components of your operation. For example, what is used to send job instructions between the major systems?
Okay, so I'm not sure what they're asking, but XMF. So to start off, XMF would be for to run the pre-press side of the job to the press. I mean, there's not really much automation going from the press to the die cutter, so I'm not really sure what they're asking there.
Okay.
Yeah, the die cutter actually is a fixed sheet size with a print mark. So once the press prints the print marks, that is the communication for the die cutter. There's no settings to move blades around on a rotary die cutter, right? Once you hang the die, it's a fixed pattern. So it's not really a make ready like you might think on some sort of a knife system.
Yeah, I mean the only the plates are fixed. The only thing the operator could do is either, move it one way or the other, or slow it or speed it up to move the cut up or down, or slow it, up or down or back and forth. Not much automation going on between all three of those.
Okay. This question came in: how small and detailed can the rotary cutter produce?
Well, Robert's got experience on the sombrero holes and taking out peg holes and things like that, right?
Yeah, like to strip that. We've obviously, that piece has multiple small items to strip out. We've done bottleneckers, which probably be the smallest thing we've done. But it could go pretty small. It just may become a challenge picking it up at the table end. But it could pretty much, I would think, go as small as you'd like.
So if you're talking about an internal scrap, Mark, we've got experience with taking peg holes out, right? They're cut out the peg holes for hanger tags and things that go on store shelves, and they can run right down to, quarter, 3/16 of an inch. We have some experience with those sombrero holes that you saw on the hanger, on the iron cross. Those are pretty thin, Robert. Those are less than 1/4 of an inch across.
Yeah.
It did fine with those. So it can go down pretty small to scrap. It kind of, it cuts it out. There's no nick, and it ejects it out right down through that chute that you saw. As far as the pieces go, it can do business cards, and it can do playing cards. So that'll give you an idea of the small pieces that can come out and be delivered. That's a whole different discussion, right? Small of the piece that's being produced versus small of the scrap that gets removed.
Okay. Do you have edge nicks in the final product? Edge nicks in the final product?
No, it's a clean cut.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very different than a flatbed, right? Flatbeds need that nick to move the product through the stages inside the machine, and a rotary does not need that. Our BSR die cutter is a straight through process, and the product stays on a straight line, and we use vacuum tables to keep it that way, and then it's stripped out without edges on it, or without nicks in it.
Lance, this one might be better geared toward you. Do you have applications of the product being used inline as well as nearline?
No, right now we don't have inline. The die cutter itself is the master feeding apparatus. The only thing we do a little bit differently there would be it can be fed by a roll, but we do not put it in line with the press. A while back, we showed one in line with I believe it was a Konica Minolta web. Oh no, it was a Zycon web, sorry, at a packaging show quite some time ago. But it never really produced a good solution for inline. The economies of scale didn't work out really well. The die cutter usually could run much faster than the press could, so it made a lot of sense to keep it as a nearline.
Okay, this question might be suited for both of you in terms of what was the ramp-up time after the installation of the machine, and did you provide the training on your side at MBO?
Go ahead, Robert. That's
so ramp-up time. If I remember correctly. We went through basic training with the the two operators that run the machine now. It was a while ago, but I would say I think we had a package with it that we trained for a week or two, and then I want to say they came back a month or two later for some subsequent training. So it wasn't, at least for our operators, it wasn't a big challenge to learn how to use it. It's pretty simple equipment to use. It's nothing out of this world or that requires anything crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's typically our process. Is we put it in and we provide it. Usually, it takes less than a week to install something like that, or about a week, and then we have a week of training. And usually, that training is the initial foray of operators into that process, and it's good to come back, say 30 days, 60 days later, after they've got a little experience, and then do it again. Then they're really engaged, and they have they know what to, the first time they don't know what they don't know. And the second time they know what they need to ask. So it's a much better, we also have Fold School along the training side. We call it Fold School, but we have training programs in our building out in Marlton, New Jersey, near Philadelphia. And some of these systems are available. So we can do folder training and die cutter training, and we've got roll fed lines, and we're expanding it into roll fed also. So that's always something they can do as an offline process too.
Kind of a general question in terms of just installing the die cutting capabilities, in terms of the ability of having that to help you get into any new markets. I don't know if that was the case for you, Robert, because you guys were trying to eliminate the outsourcing, but did it create any new market opportunities? And Lance, you might be able to weigh in on that as well.
Yeah, so I mean, initially we moved in this direction for an existing need. Did it open? Yeah, it definitely did. It opened a small market in some packaging and just some other products that we were doing internally, which we could better the process instead of going, for example, to a folder, scoring and folding. We could do it on the die cutting system with a plow folder, gluer, and things like that. So some of the DM products that we're running more efficiently there, and then it also gave us the ability to offer the customer some type of different cut for like a direct mail piece with, let's just say, some kind of hole cut on it, or a different cut other than just a straight cut. So it gave us the ability to offer that, something different to our customers.
Yeah, we see there's actually two sides we've seen about the, I guess, the expansion of the abilities of the company. And it's kind of centered around that comment I made earlier: you don't know what you don't know. There's the whole thing about the operator training, of giving them the training to actually run the machine. But then there's another side of it where the company learns that the capabilities they have internally now to use and can offer to a customer. And that, what Robert said about that contoured one, is that's a big realization by the salespeople when they can offer these really interesting shapes. I mean, I remember in the older days, one of the ones that staked the claim into die cutting shapes was a hamburger promotion by one of the big ones that actually looked like a hamburger that went out in a direct mail piece. And boy, the open rate and the conversion on that was insane. So, that sort of stuff is always available. And then that fringe area of the packaging market is a big deal. Blister pack inserts and all the things that go along with some of the manuals that a commercial printer may be printing. Those are all things that all of a sudden can be in-house items and produce very well. So.
All right. Well, unfortunately, that's going to have to be kind of the last word today, because we've about running out of time. On behalf of Printing Impressions, I want to thank Robert Hernandez from Solo Printing and Lance Martin from MBO America, and especially our audience for attending today's webinar. Be sure to check out this webinar page to get information on all our archived and upcoming webinars. If you would just take a minute to fill out the brief feedback survey that will appear on your screen next, we'd be most grateful. Your feedback will influence the webinars we bring in the future. Hope to see you at the next Printing Impressions webinar. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, NAPCO. Thank Robert.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.